There's a whole bunch of stuff on calendar today, meaning motions that are going to be heard and maybe some motions that are going to be delayed. Now, one of the big things, of course, is choice of counsel. So first, she needs counsel. Her court-appointed attorney, Sam Ingham, has said he wanted to resign, and she wants replacement counsel, which is the best thing that can happen. She needs somebody who's independent of the conservatorship, who's going to zealously advocate for her, who's not going to be influenced, who shares the same vision that she has for ending this and not perpetuating it. And it seems like she's found an attorney who will do that, a very strong advocate. Now, the problem is that she's under this conservatorship. So she doesn't have all the normal rights everyone would have because they've been taken from her. But she does have the right to pick counsel, and I imagine that the court will honor her preference to appoint new counsel today. But new counsel doesn't mean the end of the case. It in many ways could be the start of this. So she needs to have this attorney go through 13 years of litigation history. That is an immense amount of work that has to be done, looking over all these court documents. There's a ton of stuff out there on Twitter that the Free Britney movement has put out there that I've been reviewing. It's been extremely helpful to me to get up to speed in the case, and I'm hoping that her new counsel could take advantage of that analysis, all that documentation. But that's going to take time. And I imagine, though, that he will quickly file a petition to terminate the conservatorship, and then we're going to be seeing some action. But it does take time. We're in court. Nothing moves quickly. I'm hoping, though, that the court will act with urgency, because every moment that this conservatorship lasts, it is taking away her freedom. And so there isn't a moment to waste. We can't be waiting for so-called investigations. We can't be pushing this off like a regular court case over and over again. It needs to be handled now. And you know what? The court has that power. It's unusual, but the court can act on its own. The court is not a passive participant. It's a stakeholder. It's in charge. As a matter of fact, the only reason why she's under a conservatorship is that the court ordered it. So if the court can order it, a court can take it away. And so it is possible, in the realm of possibility, that the court could quickly end this if it wanted to. Now, one of the things that's super frustrating about this story is that it was very easy for Britney to find herself under this conservatorship. It's what's being called a voluntary conservatorship, and we have a guest coming up, Lisa McCarley, a probate attorney, an expert in this area, that's going to walk us through that. But if it was so easy for her to get into the conservatorship, why is it so hard for her to get out of it? That doesn't make sense. Why isn't this ending quickly? This should be ending as quickly as it started, but now we're seeing the trap that she's in, the self-perpetuating system of a conservatorship. Lisa will talk about that. What does these really look like inside a conservatorship? Why is it so hard to get out of one? So in this show, we're going to be giving legal analysis, background. We're going to talk to guests from all over the place. We're going to bring in remotely. So I'm hoping that you're going to find value out of this. And I'd like to bring on Lisa. I don't know if she's available yet, but once she is, we're going to remote her in, and then we'll go through some other guests that we have. So back to a little bit more background while we're waiting for Lisa to join us. This history of this case is pretty remarkable. 13 years ago, Britney Spears certainly was in crisis. Why was she in crisis? She was under tremendous pressure. There was the paparazzi hounding her. There was a custody dispute going on. She had given birth. There's a lot happening in her life. And that's understandable that there would be, it'd be understandable that there's enormous pressure being placed on this person. Okay, I understand she's a pop star. She's so important to everybody, but she's a person. And anyone going through a custody battle, it's terrible. It rips you to pieces. And then having the paparazzi following you and documenting all of it, being terrorized. Of course she was in crisis. Of course she needed help, but she didn't need this kind of help. Now, I want to bring in Lisa McCarley to the show. I'm so honored that she would be a guest here because she is all over Twitter. If you following Free Britney on Twitter, you see Lisa McCarley's tweets. This is the real expert. She knows probate and she knows that case. And here she is.
Hi, Chris.
Now, Lisa, thanks for joining us. And I want to just, lay that out a little bit more. This is what you do, right? I mean, you're a probate attorney. You're in this system. How long have you been doing this?
Actually, I went to law school in the 1980s because I wanted to be of service to families that are dealing with difficult problems related to aging relatives and disabled adults. So I've been doing this my entire career, and I went to work for the first time in a law firm in 1990. So I've been doing this for quite a long time.
Now, one of the things, Lisa, that's super confusing to me is this concept of a voluntary conservatorship. And if you can walk us through that, and what seems contradictory to me is that somebody who allegedly is incapable of handling their own affairs could possibly consent to anything. And secondly, how could they possibly understand the ramifications of a conservatorship giving away rights for potentially ever? So if you can walk through for us, what exactly is that?
Well, it's very rare, actually, for a person to petition to conserve themselves. It sometimes happens, but typically it is because of family conflict that the subject person wants to mitigate or dissolve. The problem that you have correctly addressed here is that did Britney Spears get all of the legal advice that she needed to make an informed decision? Because essentially what has been told to the public is that she agreed to give up, forego her civil liberties, her self-autonomy as a person, as a woman, and I'm not sure that that is a correct characterization of what happened now that she has revealed that she may not have been given correct counseling even about the right to terminate this conservatorship. So your question is astute. If she cannot manage her own needs for food, clothing, and shelter, how can she possibly voluntarily and knowingly give up her civil liberties? It is a contradiction.
Now, Lisa, we've also heard there's never been a determination of incapacity by the court. I assume because this was a so-called voluntary conservatorship. So, number one, is it true that there's nothing in the court record that shows that the court ever made a finding that Britney is incapacitated? And if that is true, what does that mean for her ability to get out of the conservatorship?
Well, you're absolutely right, and I've scoured through the records. For one thing, I don't agree that the correct characterization of this conservatorship is voluntary. We know that Ms. Spears attempted to retain counsel to oppose the conservatorship right in the beginning. The big question is, why was she denied the right to retain we all know the name Adam Streisand. So first of all, I don't believe that this was truly a voluntary conservatorship. She did try to get out of the conservatorship. I think what happened is when she was denied counsel, she finally capitulated to the conservatorship with the understanding that this would give her greater access to her children and to friends and family. So let's talk about that. I also understand that there has never been an adjudication of her incapacity. There's never been a proper filing by a doctor or doctor's statement. In probate, we call it a capacity declaration. And in my mind, that's going to make it very easy for her to terminate the conservatorship if she chooses to do so. But these are very troubling questions. What was Ms. Spears told all of these years by her court-appointed counsel that allowed something so abusive and traumatizing to remain in place? Great questions.
Yeah, Lisa, and I heard the reporting about the concern that at least was stated to Britney by others that she might lose custody of her children because of the crisis that she was under, and that this conservatorship may have been sold to her as a way to avoid losing custody. And to me, as a divorce lawyer now in my world, that makes no sense at all, because the court will look at the best interests of the children, doesn't need a conservatorship over somebody if they're having issues. So if she was sold that story, it was really a bad one. And then again, taking away her chosen counsel, so she has nobody advocating for her, and more importantly, or just as importantly, nobody advising her. I could see how this thing has perpetuated. Now, one thing that's also confusing to me is that it was very easy, it seems like, for her to get into a conservatorship. Why is it so hard now for her to get out of it? Why wasn't it good enough on June 23 when she addressed the court and said she wanted to end it and gave her reasons for it, to end it? And I understand there's court process and it wasn't on hearing that day, but what do you think that the court can push this along quicker than a normal case?
To be very honest, I have been very bold and aggressive about making sure that the judges, especially the presiding judges in Los Angeles County Superior Court, are aware of the procedural defects, which are significant, which took place in February 2008, which led to the imposition of this conservatorship. It goes even farther beyond not having counsel of her own choice. Ms. Spears was not given the documentation, and immediately Commissioner, now Judge Reva Getz, denied her access to other attorneys other than her court-appointed lawyer. So it is possible, although admittedly not probable, but there is a chance that Judge Brenda Penny, who has a lot in stake in terms of her long career in the probate courts, she might pull the trigger based on what Britney Spears stated to all of us on June 23rd. I think it is more likely that the new attorney will come in and file some type of writ or motion to explain that this case started with numerous violations of Ms. Spears' constitutional rights. And for those reasons, I'd like to see this terminated as quickly as possible. But otherwise, it is a long process. However, it's clear. It's been clear to the Free Britney movement and to anyone that has observed Ms. Spears performing either as a judge or in Las Vegas, that she is clearly capable of providing for her own needs for food, clothing, and shelter.
Now, Lisa, one of the phrases that I thought I read in one of these court papers was that she was a high-functioning conservatee. To me, those words should not be appearing together, that somebody who's high-functioning would think not need a conservator or not need certainly this level of protection. So are there other situations that you're aware of, or any explanation that you could give that somebody who's able to work, and not just a regular 9-to-5 job, we're talking a Las Vegas residency, which would be grueling, who's able to earn a living to pay for all this stuff, able to post on social media, need any of this protection?
You're so absolutely right that it does seem that this was an extreme overreach in terms of what transpired. And to be honest, I think that the court owes it to Ms. Spears to review the documentation. And part of the big problem that I see here is that the bench officers rely so much the court-appointed attorneys, that the power dynamics now are such that it is actually in Los Angeles County Probate Court pretty much an unwritten rule that the judges will follow the recommendations of the court-appointed attorneys. And this ended up being problematic these last 13 years because it is my understanding that the court-appointed attorney has had a standing order that he is to receive a weekly stipend of $10,000. So right off the bat, starting in 2008, there was a terrible conflict between the court-appointed counsel and his client. So not only did he, the court-appointed attorney, testify at the initial stages of this conservatorship that Ms. Spears lacked capacity to retain her own counsel, even though she did retain her own counsel, it was really a bad setup from the beginning. And I do take issue with the fact that there was a standing order, which was an amazing amount of compensation to this man who was supposed to be advocating solely for Britney Spears. And now it comes out that she's been asking for years to have the conservatorship terminated. Let me take care of it.
Yeah, it's just so disappointing. There are so many issues in this case that are disappointing. And one of the things that I read that Mr. Ingham had wrote in some of his paperwork was stating that Britney Spears had been determined by the court to be incapacitated when we know that never happened. And I just wonder, like, how is it that the rest of us know that and the lawyer that's made potentially millions of dollars or certainly hundreds of thousands of dollars off of this case doesn't know the case file? That blows my mind. So I want to ask you in conclusion about the system here and how other people are affected by it, because we're talking about Britney Spears, but there's a lot of people under conservatorships. And does this system self-perpetuate? Are judges reluctant to release somebody for conservatorship because they're worried that something's going to happen to them and that they're going to be blamed for it? And does that just basically cause these things to go on forever?
This is a very unusual case, and I am not aware of many instances where a conservatee showed up and said, I'm perfectly capable, here's a doctor's declaration, here's my family to support me getting out of conservatorship. I have certainly terminated conservatorships, and frankly, we know that the court-appointed attorney has done so as well. What is unusual and what needs to be addressed immediately, and this is where I think that the Free Britney movement did such a marvelous job, we need to understand why are the judges taking the word of court-appointed counsel when we know that these are supposed to be advocates for a person facing or in conservatorship, and not looking at the bigger picture, which is, how do we remain within the framework of the probate code? And one of the important provisions that seem to have been completely overlooked is what is stated as we need to find the least restrictive alternative to conservatorship. And that never appears to have been explored and investigated. So I will say, in defense of the probate court, I don't know of many people that are conserved inappropriately. I do know of many people that have been left in abusive situations, notwithstanding reports and investigations that cried out for a change in the conservatorship. And this needs to be dealt with as quickly as possible.
Well, thanks, Lisa, for that insight. And it's really, one of the wonderful things about social media is just getting to know people. And Lisa and I got to know each other and correspond here via Twitter. It's such a great place to exchange these ideas. And I really appreciate you coming on the show and giving that expert advice that we need to break it down. So thank you very much. Now, I want to bring in Greg. Now, I saw you're live with #law, and I appreciate you being here.
Sure.
Why are you here?
Well, it's for Britney, to free Britney, and once they said no procreation, I had to. That's it. That's enough. She should have choice, and this is also for law. This is a big milestone.
Yeah, it is, and I love the way you're dressed.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's just incredible. It's incredible the way you're dressed. And so, have you come out to these rallies before?
Yesterday. I was in West Hollywood at TriStar. They were there. It was a small gathering, and for Britney.
And what's the connection with Britney? Why come out here to support her?
Well, I was the former official ambassador of Beverly Hills for 12 years, and I used to meet several celebrities, including Britney. I'd see them shop and so on Rodeo Drive, and I just, I felt, since I was acquainted, why not come?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you being here, Greg, and thanks for being on the show with us for a minute. I just, again, love the way you're dressed, and it just really makes a great statement.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Free Britney.
Right.
All right. So, I mean, this is just incredible amount of media out here. We got a lot of love and support. We are going to be bringing on Jacob Bingham from Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, coming in. Will just let me know when he's ready to go on. But again, another gentleman that met over Twitter, and so we're going to be going to him in a second. And again, the power of the movement. People not just here with the pink signs today, but all over the world. And so I'm happy to bring in Jacob and to explain what is it that drives him to follow this movement. Why are you supporting this, Jacob?
Well, I've been following, this case ever since last year, and it's really touched my heart, just like it has touched you and everyone else's heart, not only in the United States but also around the world. And it's just very heartbreaking, to see someone go through, such a, tragedy in their own life, and it's affected literally every aspect of their life, for the past 13 years. And I just really, hope and pray that today is the beginning of the end, of not only this conservatorship, but also the beginning of her life and what the future may bring.
That's excellent. And to me, before she spoke on June 23, I just didn't know. I didn't know what to make out of this because I wasn't hearing from her directly. We were hearing from others, and then we were speculating. But when I heard her give that statement and talk about how she wants to be married, she wants to have a child, I had no idea that this level of protection was on her and how it was affecting her. It was just absolutely heartbreaking. And did you have the same type of reaction when you listened to her statement?
It was very, heartbreaking, just to even hear all the things she has said. And especially about, I didn't get to specifically see, on TV, when she was making her statements, because I don't really have cable right now, but I do keep, close eye on Twitter. And it's just really heartbreaking. And I just really can't believe it, just, how many, corrupt officials are, in on this, and it just really blows my mind, for someone to, not only lose most of their fortune, but, just their life in general. Like it's absurd, and I'm just glad she's having all this support, especially the Free Britney movement. All of us has done, all the wonderful people around not only our country but the world, they've done a fabulous job in supporting Britney and getting all this information together and having all this documented proof to even show all over social media just how real and how horrid this situation really is. So it definitely really hits home.
Well, Jacob, I appreciate you joining us from Atlanta, Georgia. So I really appreciate you being out here with us, and have a great day. Now,
thank you. I really appreciate it.
I know a lot of stuff's going on in the background. People are getting excited. Well, thanks, Jacob. A lot of stuff happening out here. People, just the crowd swelling. We're not even at the hearing date. And so I want to tell a little bit of a story. Gentleman David LaCour's second, and from Florida. And I read this article about him. Absolutely incredible. And the reason why I want to tell this story is that I was thinking that if I were her lawyer, you know, what evidence would I put on for Britney to show that she has capacity? Because we know the other side, the conservatorship team, is going to try and put on all kinds of evidence why she shouldn't be free. Well, what evidence could Britney put on for herself when she is controlled? There's people who monitor her movements, see who she can see what she can, that control what she can say. So wouldn't that be a self-selecting audience of people that maybe would be under control of the conservatorship team? So how is she going to put on this evidence to show, like, hey, there's nothing wrong with me? And when I came across the article about David, I thought this is the evidence that she needs. And here's his story. David LaCours, as a child, was a Britney Spears fan. He adored her as a very young child. And as he became a teenager, he wrote her a letter. He was going through a lot. He was openly gay, and he was worried about a lot going on in his life. He was even suicidal. And he wrote her a letter, and he said, "Britney, you saved my life. It was because of the connection that he felt with her that he got through a hard stage in his life." And he handed the letter. He went to a show, he handed the letter, and the bodyguard for Britney ran down and said, "Hey, I want to get your return address because Britney may like to correspond with you." And you know what? She wrote him a letter. She invited him. And it's a handwritten letter, so we know, or can tell, I guess, it's from her. And she invited him backstage. He went to several concerts, got to know her, and he says each time she remembered his name. She remembered his story. And his point is, how can somebody who's so incapacitated that it would need a conservatorship would remember my name, would be so kind to me consistently over time? This isn't one time, this is many times. This isn't a publicity stunt. This was done privately, in her own hand. I think he's witness number one. That's who I would call. Because how could it possibly be that she is so incapacitated that she needs a conservator when she's able to do this? I think that's excellent evidence. I've communicated, reached out with David over Twitter. He wasn't able to join the show, but he said he would be happy if we talked about him. So I just think what a wonderful story of how this performer, this person, Britney Spears, has touched so many people's lives, and in a way that provided evidence for her to get out of this. Can you imagine what she couldn't even have known that? It was an act of kindness towards a fan that may now unlock this prison that she's in. So to me, what a beautiful story. So much empathy and care for a fan that she took, and now to provide that as evidence that could get her out of this mess that she's in. Now, I'm going to be bringing on in a few minutes a great friend of mine, Steve Mindell, who's a family law attorney. We've worked against each other. We work with each other. This guy knows his stuff. He runs a law firm. There's 20 lawyers in LA that are doing family law. Gigantic firm, very successful, very smart, and also a really kind guy. And so I'm going to be bringing him on. In about 10 minutes, just teasing that, and to talk about the family law implications of this, because that's a part of the story that hasn't really been told much. So as we're gathering here, we're getting ready to see this hearing. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we've got Steve Mindell coming up as a guest. We also have a gentleman from the United Kingdom who's going to be joining us right after Steve Mindell. So we're going to be bringing him in. And then we're going to talk to some of the fans that are out here, bring them in, see if they'll come in and join us. Because my goal here is not everybody can be here. Not everyone can come down to LA court. So I want to bring in, to give that window of this opportunity to see what's really happening here.
I have Caitlin and Sammy here.
All right. So we're going to bring on Caitlin and Sammy. They're a little nervous. Could you Come on, don't be scared. A little nervous. Caitlin and Sammy, you're live on hashtag the law.
Sorry.
So, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
So why are you here?
We love Britney,
Yeah,
and
Britney
what's
stands.
going on is not okay. She needs to be freed, and she needs help. Her family needs to be arrested. That's all I know.
They need to go to prison, like,
Yeah.
straight up, honestly.
Now-
Arrest Jamie Spears.
How long have you been a Britney fan?
Since I was born.
Like,
2000?
since childhood, but, like, seriously, like, 2 years now. Yeah.
Okay. Now, so Britney is basically in a prison here called a conservatorship. What do you think should happen to the people that have done this to you?
I think they should all be charged. I think something serious needs to happen. She needs help. She needs to get out of it. They should be arrested, in my opinion.
Yeah, and seriously, somebody needs to go after their money. Like, they need to be bankrupt.
Yes.
Well, one of the things that's remarkable is their money is her money, isn't that?
It just needs to be taken
It's
away.
like, what do you do about that? But it's so wrong.
Now, when listening to Britney's statement in court on June 23, I remember her saying something about sexual trafficking or sex trafficking. What do you think she was talking about?
I think she was just comparing how she has no control of her body, her rights, and everything. They have full control of her body. She can't have a child like she wants to, and that is not okay. Women's bodies should not be in the hands of a man. Her awful father and all these stupid people who are taking her money and her rights, it's not okay. And that's why I think she needs help.
Okay. And what do you think is going to happen today?
Well, I mean, we could hope for the best,
Yeah, we
but...
hope she's gonna get control of her own lawyer who gets to represent her. Yeah. That's what we're really hoping for today, but we'll really see. Who knows what the judge will decide, but I'm hoping she will finally realize Britney needs to be freed.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Please enjoy the rally here. Yeah, sure. Come on.
No, I'm going to talk to you later. I'm attorney. I'm here from Florida.
Oh, okay. What's your name?
My name is Barbara Stone.
Barbara Stone,
yes.
An attorney from Florida.
Yes,
okay,
yes,
so why are you here, Barbara?
Well, my mother was in a guardianship, but I'm here more not to really tell my story so much, but I want the public and I want the media particularly to understand and report correctly, because Britney is one of 6 million people in the country whose rights have been stripped. These are Britney's human birthrights. These are not rights granted by law. They're rights granted because she's born. Nobody can take her rights. Nobody can steal her rights. Nobody can transfer her rights. But everybody knows this is going on. Our whole government knows this is going on because human trafficking is a big enterprise. So I practiced real estate. My license was stripped from me when I exposed the corruption. And so my story is like a horror story myself. But I'm not looking to tell my story. I'm looking for people to understand that anybody can be targeted. If anyone has assets, they can be targeted. They can be brought to a court that has no jurisdiction to adjudicate illegal laws, because these laws all need to be abolished because they're all illegal. So it's a big farce. Britney's paying money to one attorney after the other to deal with laws that are all illegal. And so that's what I want to get across to the public and to the media. And I'll stop and let you ask me any questions if you have questions.
Well, I thank you for joining us, and I like that you have that perspective from your own background and trying to bring this attention to this. So I really appreciate you joining us. And I think that the great point is that if it can happen to Britney, it can happen to anybody. So thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for everything you're doing.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you. So, a lot going on in court today. Again, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. Again, I'm hoping when we walk out of here that she will have a new attorney. That definitely needs to happen. But what else is going to occur? So we're going to have to wait potentially till 4:30 to understand that when the court closes. And the reason is because the audio feed was stopped. And I'm so upset about that. So at the last hearing, June 23, there was an audio feed that the court provided. That's why we were able to hear from Britney. Finally understand, in her own words, not filtered through somebody else, what she wanted and why she wanted it. And we heard that. But this hearing is different. We don't know what's going on in there until it's reported to us or we see a transcript. The audio was eliminated. Now, I understand there's a court rule that prohibits the recording of a hearing, and that was violated. But does the violation of that rule justify now taking away all of these protections that we have as a public, protections that Britney has as the conservatee, which is public oversight? Because this thing gone on in secret basically for 13 years. So we need to have basically, hold on, we got somebody starting their motorcycle here. So 13 years in secret. Sorry about that. We got a Harley Davidson going through here. So 13 years in secret. Now we have another court appearance with no audio.
I figured I would bring you one of these.
Yeah. Okay. So I got my sign. You know, this is some of the signs that they're doing, and I know these judges, so I don't advocate for what the sign says, but that's what the sign says. We got people out here now. The basically we don't have this hearing with the audio feed anymore, and that's just really a shame. Just because somebody recorded it doesn't mean that we should take away this right. So just checking to see if we have Steve Mandel ready. If we do, we'll go to him. Otherwise, we'll keep going on other stuff. Okay, so we can go. Like I say, I just wanted to go check my little list. Sorry about that. Okay, we'll go to Lee when he's available. Our guest from the UK, but just let me know when he's up. And sorry, just trying to coordinate all this stuff live. Okay, so what's going to happen in court? We know that she's trying to get this new counsel appointed. We hope that that's going to happen. When she walks out the door, she'll have this new counsel. But again, that person has to go back 13 years of litigation history and get prepared and file the petition to terminate the conservatorship. What about Bessemer Trust and Jamie Spears? So stepping back just a little bit, we have two types of conservatorships that are possible in California, one over the estate and one over the person. The estate means money. So there's a conservatorship that is impressed over Britney that controls her finances. Contracts that she can enter into aren't signed by her, signed by the conservator of her estate, which is currently Bessemer Trust and Jamie Spears. Now, they also control her money and what gets spent on bills and her own allowance. Then you have a conservator over the person, which would control medical decisions, where she can go, where she lives, who she can see, marrying somebody. She also has that, which is Jody Montgomery. Now, Britney's been trying to get rid of her father as a conservator since November. Her court-appointed attorney, Sam Ingram, did file that motion. He asked on her behalf, as she wished, to get Jamie Spears out. And so the court had basically not ruled on that, but appointed Bessemer Trust as a co-conspirator. I'm sorry, co-conservator with Jamie, and so now they too serve as conservators of the estate. But Bessemer Trust wants out, and if Bessemer Trust is out today, that would mean Jamie's in solely. So we can't have that happen. So I got to imagine the court's going to take out Jamie Spears today. It really needs to do that. There's no reason why he should be in that role. His daughter doesn't want it. They're not even talking. So hopefully she walks out the door with a new conservator over the estate, at least temporarily, if this thing isn't ended today. Okay, whoa. Taylor, I got a great guest. Look at this sign. That is a beauty. I don't even know how you print a sign that big. It's a banner. So why are you here today?
Here to support Britney. I came from Albuquerque, New Mexico, just for this.
Wow, you came from Albuquerque, New Mexico, just for this. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what does Britney mean to you? Why would you drive so far to come out for this?
I feel a weird sense of protection over her, even though she's 10 years older than me. I've been a fan for 23 years, and she's just a pure soul, and you can tell. And I think everyone here wants to protect that.
Now, I believe in this. I believe that this power of love or prayer, this support, is making a difference. Have you seen the effect of the movement on the case?
Absolutely. People are, I mean, everyone's here. Look at everyone here. People are finally talking about it. It's on the news. You can't really ignore it at this point. I've been telling people for the last 10 years about it. And it feels as though I'm just screaming into the void sometimes. So it's so nice that people are finally listening.
That's what I saw, especially after June 23, when Britney spoke and explained what she wanted, that all of a sudden now people are willing to believe that this conservatorship is abusive and needs to end. Was it frustrating all these other years to be saying that, but nobody listened or even taking it as a joke?
Absolutely. And a lot of it was because we could never hear from Britney herself how she actually felt. And I know she's been against it for years and trying to get out of it for years, but the public didn't know that. Her fans knew that, but I think everyone kind of wrote us off as crazed fans, and we kind of are, but it's in a good way, you know? Look what we've done.
Now, if this isn't ended today, and I know that's a long shot, would you come back?
I would definitely, yeah.
Wow. Well, thanks so much for joining us and being here. Wow.
Big Britney fan.
Look at that tattoo. That is evidence. That is proof. That is amazing.
That's true.
Thank you so much for telling your story and being here. All right, sure. All right, we're almost ready for Steve Mindell. There's a lot going on here today. Like I say, a lot of buzz here. It's amazing. I mean, there's probably more media here than Free Britney people. I really can't believe that how much is happening here. So this has an effect. This has a demonstrable effect. We know from 13 years this case went on. It would have gone on for another 13 years. The only reason why this case is ending, why the wheels have come off, why people are jumping the ship is because of fans like that. People who come from Albuquerque, New Mexico, come out here to show support. People posting on social media, doing the analysis. This is absolutely amazing, and it's working. It's super excited. Now, I'm even more excited, or just as excited, I should say, to bring on my good friend Steve Mindell. Me and Steve go back a long time. He is just a wonderful, wonderful person, very sharing. Again, running this big law firm, 20 attorneys in Los Angeles doing divorce law. Just a sweet, sweet guy. If you ever needed something, this is the guy that you want. He's also a professional chef. And I mean, just an amazing guy to meet. And I wanted to bring him on to talk about the family law aspect of this. And I don't want to be a downer. I'm really worried even talking about this, but this conservatorship case is going to end. And when it does, she may have a family law dispute, a custody dispute with K-Fed. And I'm really worried about that, and I want to bring in some perspective. So, Steve, let's say this conservatorship ends today or whenever it ends. The court has released her from these restrictions. She's a free person that she should have been all along. And now there's a dispute over custody. She maybe wants to go with equal time, which I don't believe she has equal time right now. She wants to go to equal time, let's say. And now K-Fed and his lawyer, Mark Kaplan, are going to probably say, we want an evaluation. As a matter of fact, Mark Kaplan's already said, I want an evaluation, or my client's going to want an evaluation if the conservatorship ends. How do you kind of see that playing out in family court?
So, Chris, it's going to be a really interesting dynamic, right? Because momentum is key. So right now, if the conservatorship is abandoned or dismissed, you would think that Britney Spears suddenly has momentum. And K-Fed's got to be concerned about that momentum. So how does he slow the momentum down? Well, if this was a basketball game, we'd just call a timeout. So K-Fed's going to want to call a timeout. How do you call a timeout? Oh, I need things to be done. I want a court hearing. I want a trial. I want evaluations. Everything to slow the process down. So, but on the other hand, the court's going to look at this and go, well, right now the timeshare is roughly 70-30. It's been reported. Most people believe that the timeshare is roughly 70-30 between them. Britney is in that really great position of being able to afford to have a lot of staff around her. So the court's not so concerned that she'll be all alone with the children. And then lastly, the children now are much older. They're in their teens. And children that are in their teens are good as reporters. So there's a lot of positive things going on for Britney. Maybe she gets to avoid this, because you bet Britney's attorneys are going to be screaming, Your Honor, they're calling a timeout. They're slowing the process down. We need to speed it up. This is ridiculous. This woman's been essentially in a bubble for the last 12 years. So I don't know. It's a good question and a good close call.
About the impact of a custody case, because this is your world. You deal with this as I do, unfortunately, every day. It's kind of a sad, miserable job in a way, but this is what we do, custody disputes. And you've represented celebrities, you've represented people with nothing in fights over their kids. And is it any different, first of all, let me ask you, any different for a celebrity going through a custody case than a non-celebrity? Are parents, or are there differences between the two? And what impact does this have on a person psychologically when they're going through a court case fighting over the right to see their kids?
So the celebrity issue is really important in this case. It's funny because you think, oh, celebrities are supposed to be normal people. And judges say when we deal with celebrity cases, we deal with them as normal people. But this case is way different because when K-Fed stands up and says, I want a timeout, I want a child custody evaluation, I want to slow the process down. A judge has to make a decision. If something happens that's negative, do I want to be the judge that's on the front page of the Los Angeles Times for having made a mistake? And so that's why the celebrity issue comes into play. On the other hand, because she is a celebrity, the whole issue of the probate matter has gotten an incredible amount of publicity. So the judge is going to come into this case up to speed on the probate matter and maybe saying to him or herself, I don't think that I'm going to slow this down. I think Britney's been slowed down long enough. She's got momentum. The children are of sufficient age to be reporters, and Britney can hire sufficient staff to make sure nothing happens negatively to these children. And then remember, it's reported right now that she's a 70-30 split, so she's got her children a lot of the time, and that time has been reported to be unsupervised.
That's one of the other aspects of this story that's odd to me, is that it's been reported that when 13 years ago Britney was having a crisis because she was being hounded by paparazzi, she was in this custody dispute with K-Fed, she had given birth and dealing with all that. Understandably, this would break anybody. And she apparently was told that in some kind of intervention, that if she submitted to a conservatorship, that it could make her custody case go better, that K-Fed might ask for full custody unless she had a conservatorship. And to me, as a divorce lawyer, doesn't make sense, because if a parent has psychological problems or personal problems, we see that in divorce court all the time. Family judges deal with that all the time. And it really doesn't matter unless it affects the children. So there has to be a connection between whatever the parent's capacity is, parenting capacity, the ability to be a good and loving parent or not, on the children. And if there are problems there, we could say, hey, go take some parenting classes, or hey, we could warn them, if you don't stop this, we're gonna maybe have to take some of your time away. Or if it's really bad, we can put a monitor in place, meaning that the parent would continue seeing their child all the time, but they would have somebody watching and observing and reporting back to the court, just as a protection for the kids. And we see reunification in dependency court, people who have abused their kids. I'm talking horrible stuff, burning their kids, sexually assaulting them. Dependency court, they reunify those parents with the child. Britney did nothing. And so I don't see where she would need a conservatorship to help a custody case. Does that make any sense to you?
So the big question that we always come up with, Chris, you come up with it all the time, I come up with it all the time. And let's use an example that we can all deal with, and we can just see it because it's big and in front of us. So your client comes in, they may have an alcohol issue, they may have gotten a DUI, drunk driving, and now all of a sudden the question is, okay, we're going to have a hearing on child custody, and you know that drunk driving is going to come into play. So do you do the following? Do you enroll the person, have them start going to AA, get a sponsor, maybe go through a detox program, essentially admitting that there's an alcohol issue? Or do you take the other play, which is just absolute flat denial? There's no alcohol issue, therefore we're not in AA, therefore we're not going to go through detox, we're not going to do anything. When you take the play that there's no problem, you're betting the farm. The judge can only go one direction. If the judge finds that you have a problem and you're not addressing the issue, then the judge is going to probably give you restricted monitored visitation. If you take the other play, which is the safe play, then you may have to rebuild your custodial time with your children. So in Britney's case, they were faced with that same dilemma. Do they go through the conservatorship? Do they admit that there are psychological issues and then take the conservative approach and then try to come out of it at a relatively short period of time? Unfortunately for Britney's situation, it was 13 years. Now, it's reported that Britney has unsupervised visitation with the children now, and it's probably a third of the time. So that's kind of a judicial call. I mean, that could have happened whether or not Britney was the primary parent or not the primary parent. And the reason why is because of her travel schedule. Her travel schedule may have made it so she shouldn't be the primary custodial parent when the children were younger, when they were 1, 2, 3, 4. So at this point in time, what's going to happen is the judge is going to take an overall view, and he or she will look at the situation, and I think you're going to see the judge dismiss the issues of the mental health issues and look at the age of the children. Are they reporters? Look at who's going to be around staffing, and they're going to look at her current parenting plan and how effective she is in the current parenting plan. If Britney's lucky, she's going to avoid the child custody evaluation and the timeout that K-Fed is going to try to call. And if she's unlucky, she's just going to be in another court battle. With the children being 14 and 15 years old, the court battle may go on for a year or two more even, which could be unfortunate for her.
Yeah, Steve, I thank you for those comments. And I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that this ends it and that there's not some other legal battle that she has to face. I see no reason for it. Why shouldn't she have equal time? She's an equal parent. And certainly, if she's had all this time and there's no incidents, there would be no reason to even do an evaluation. So I hope that she doesn't have to go through that awful process. So Steve Mandel, really appreciate you being on the show. A good friend, you did me a solid, so I appreciate being on and giving your insight to everyone, and I hope you have a great day.
Thanks, Chris. Always a pleasure.
Now,
anytime.
We're coming towards the... Yeah, thanks, Steve. So we got one more remote guest, and that's Lee from the United Kingdom. And just let me know when he's ready to go, and we'll go to Lee. Wow, we got an amazing amount of support coming out. I mean, just people flocking here. The hearing hasn't even started yet, so we're just seeing more and more. Okay. So we're seeing a ton of more support coming in. Now on Twitter, when I was putting out that we're doing this live stream, we had folks from all over the world say that they would listen and wanted to support this, even though we're in totally different time zones. And I think that that's so cool, because it's not just the people coming down here with the pink signs and standing out in front of the courthouse. This is a worldwide, universal movement. This performer, Britney Spears, has impacted people all over the world, really in a very, very serious way, that they're coming out to support. And I want to bring in Lee from the United Kingdom, who said he would be willing to come on to the show, give some comments about what this case means to him, what he kind of sees happen. And Lee, are you here with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Hey, you're right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, I can't see. I can just hear. Yeah, I can hear you. So, so what does Britney mean to you, and why are you supporting her?
Well, like so many people, as soon as she came onto the scene, I was a big, massive fan. She was similar to like the Spice Girls, you know, it just captured that era. But obviously, we've all grown with her, and we've grown, you know, to adulthood, and, you know, she's become a mother. And over the last 13 years, we've seen this whole thing play out, and it's never been quite right. So we've always been watching from a distance, wondering what's actually happened. But obviously, over the last 2 years, pieces of the puzzle have come out. And we're all putting two and two together and seeing that the whole thing has a dark underbelly, basically.
So, you know, have you seen the shift since June 23 in public perception of the Free Britney movement or of the case itself? So before June 23, when Britney spoke, did you see a difference between how people were viewing the conservatorship or the movement versus now that she has spoken?
I think before the court appearance when she spoke, it was more of almost like a celebrity gossip type thing, but now it's become more a human rights aspect where people can see that this woman just wants to be free. If she can do all these tours, if she can do like perfume, she should be allowed to be free. She's allowed to buy a Red Bull if she wants to buy a Red Bull. And I don't understand how her father, who is double bankrupt, is in charge of her finances of a $600 million plus, which has gone walkies, which we'll find one day, of her empire. Like, she's under conservatorship, but her sister's running around a restaurant with a knife. Like, who should be under this conservatorship? It's definitely not Britney Spears.
Now, that's one thing that confused me about some of the reporting and the valuation of her estate. I had seen numbers thrown around that it was $30 million or more lately $60 million. And obviously, that's a huge amount of money. But I would expect this estate to be worth significantly more money. How could it not be? And that's what's confusing to me. I mean, what are your thoughts or reactions about what they're saying the value of this estate is?
Well, I don't understand how you can have a $2 billion plus empire, which is just the perfume side of the whole brand. She had Pepsi commercials, she's had albums, she's had tours, she's had Las Vegas residencies, she's had dolls, she's had this. There's no possible way on God's green earth that she only has $60 million. If you go through all the X Factor alone, that was like 15 million. And if her dad has been in charge of her finances for 13 years, why has she only got 60 million? Where is the money gone? Follow the money.
Yeah, that to me is, I think you're absolutely correct. And to me as an observer, because I'm not involved in the case obviously, but I'm just reading the paperwork, and I'm thinking to myself the same thing. That doesn't make sense that they're reporting her assets or estate is not worth as much as we would expect it to be. And where is this critical thinking? Why isn't the court on its own saying, hey, I want to have that investigated or checked. We're not going to take the conservator's word for what this estate is worth. And I think it's a letdown, really, of what we should be seeing in terms of court oversight. Do you have anything else that you want to add about the case, what you're hoping will happen today?
Well, when she first put in this conservatorship, they said she had dementia, but there's never been a mental capacity declaration put on file. So that means the whole thing from the jump should never have happened. This alone should be a reason why this is dissolved immediately, and everyone on the team, on the conservatorship, even in the courtroom, so that Sang Ingham and Brenda, Penny, whatever her face is, all of these people need to be investigated why they were so complicit for this to carry on as long as it has.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate, I know it's got to be late at night for you, so I appreciate you joining us on the show, reaching out to me on Twitter. I mean, it just means a lot to me, and your insight has just been perfect. So thank you, and have a good night, and I appreciate the support that you've given.
Cheers. Thanks, mate. Have a good night.
Okay, so, yeah, you too. So, so we're starting to wrap it up. We'll see if we can bring on, maybe somebody else here that's joining the movement and showing up now. We'll see what we can do. But, a lot's going to happen again at 1:30. We don't know. We know exactly, we can't predict court cases, but we know court moves slowly, and there's a lot to happen in the 3 hours that the court has, because it closes at 4:30. So it has a ton of stuff to do, all kinds of finger pointing, all kinds of allegations going on. So basically, they're going to start going through this process methodically, I think starting with counsel, and then dealing with getting Jamie out. So I think those two things need to happen today, and then after that, hopefully we'll see more and more happening in this unraveling. Because really, in the course of 3 weeks, the wheels have flown off.
Hi, Christopher.
Hey.
We have some ultra fans here. I'm so sorry. You said Jake?
Oh, Jake, yeah.
Jake. I have Jake, Bible Girl, and also Chris, which is confusing. That's Chris.
Nice. Okay. Thanks. So why are you here today?
We are here to support Britney Spears and to support her right to choose an attorney. She's been stripped of that for 13 years now, and as you heard in her explosive testimony, she's been completely abused by the legal system for this entire time, and we're just here to support her because it seems like no one else will. We're here to be bodies, here as humans, like actual people here outside making a presence, making a difference.
Yeah, and I agree. It has made a difference, and especially we've seen that in the last 3 weeks, the shift from where before everyone was out here protesting or rallying and showing support and love for Britney, but nothing was happening. 13 years, and all of a sudden now the wheels have come off. So have you been to these before?
Yes, we've been to several of these actually, and we're here not only because it's Britney's human rights that are being violated, but it's countless of other people who are victim to the system, which is built to work against them, that we're also fighting for. It's bigger than Britney, it's bigger than us, it's bigger than the fight out here. So we're just hoping to ultimately see reform and change within the probate family court system.
That's what needs to happen. And what's remarkable is that if Britney Spears, with all of her power and money and fame, could find herself under this conservatorship, what about the rest of us? What about the ones that don't have loving fans? Who is protecting them? So do you think that there's actually going to be any reform, or is it maybe Britney gets this thing terminated and then everyone goes on to the next issue?
Culturally, I think because Britney has spoken out and really shown a light on the issue, which has been highlighted for years, I think just based on the past almost month of her speaking, we're seeing that cultural shift happen. There's going to very evidently be change and reform that does take place. It doesn't just stop with Britney. We have to free other people like Charlie Thrash, Nichelle Nichols, Amanda Bynes. There's so many more that don't have celebrity clout to their names either, but those are just the tip of the iceberg. So I think we're getting closer. It won't be a perfect journey, but I think change is upon us.
So I did see the Amanda Bynes story, and I just started reading that. And do you think that there's going to be a free Amanda?
I mean, like you said, I think it's the tip of the iceberg, and I think like the more attention this gains surrounding conservatorships and the corrupt system around it, I think yeah, like this is just kind of the beginning of, especially concerning celebrities, this is just going to be the beginning of people being freed from these corrupt situations.
Now, I had a question about, in June 23, Britney said about sex trafficking, human trafficking. She made a comment about that. What do you think she was talking about on the sex trafficking part?
I think she was really just relating it to sex trafficking. We have no proof or evidence that she is being sex trafficked. There's a lot of different clues that, it's not ruled out of the question entirely. But at the same time, I think she was more so comparing to the human trafficking definition. The definition of human trafficking defined by the Bureau of Federal Investigation, right? FBI, is someone who is exploited for money or work by holding something that they love or something that they care about over them. So that's what's happening to Britney Spears. So without a doubt, by definition of the Department of Homeland Security, she is being human trafficked. So I think she probably looked up that definition because she just got her new iPhone and was like, oh, so this is what's happening to me. And she was able to tell the courts. And I think to put a definition to it, I think she's really realizing, because like she said, she'd been in denial. She was saying she was okay. But once she got that phone and was able to do her research, I'm just proud she's been able to realize that. So I think that's what she meant by it.
So one last follow-on question on that. With social media posting on Instagram, do you think that she's making those posts herself? Or do you think that maybe somebody's exploiting her, taking photos of her and putting that out there, and maybe that's what she's talking about on trafficking also?
We don't have 100% clarification as to how her posts are posted. What we do know is that she does not have access to her own social media.
Yeah.
So point blank, based off of that knowledge alone, anything that's posted about her cannot be taken as fact until you are hearing it from her mouth on video. And I mean, based on how her testimony was, you can hear the tonality, you can hear the seriousness, you can hear how earnest she is about her experience. And it's time that the world really continues to pay attention and not let go of the pressure that we've applied now on the system.
Yeah. Well, I agree, and I thank you so much. I love the glasses. And I know that this works. I've seen the power of it. I've seen over the last 3 weeks what's happened, the wheels flying off this conservatorship. You absolutely have made a difference, and that's one of the reasons why we're out here documenting this, to give credit where credit's due, because there's so many people attaching their names to something, and I want to make sure that's not forgotten. So thank you for being here. Yeah, thank you. See ya. Free Britney, absolutely. All right. Well, so this is just amazing. I mean, this is not a protest. This is a showing of love. This is support of folks coming out, we've seen all over the world, to support this, to bring light to this movement.
Guys, I have Deborah and Kelly.
All right, so for my last guest, and I know we've been on for a long time, but Deborah and Kelly, we are going to bring on Deborah and Kelly. So where are y'all from?
San Diego.
San Diego.
Yes,
okay, so why would you come all the way from San Diego to be here?
To support Britney and female rights. She has no rights right now, and it's all about giving her her rights back. Today is a big decision on the first step of giving her what she deserves.
So what do you think is gonna happen today at this hearing?
I mean, honestly, I would just like progress. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say that, I want change right now, but if we can at least get some kind of progress after today, like that's all you can ask for.
So would you feel good, in which my prediction is that we get new counsel and we get rid of Jamie?
Yes, yes, get rid of Jamie.
If you see him, let me know. Yes.
Okay. Do you think Jamie's walking in that door today?
Oh, we gotta go.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, this is going crazy out here. We're going to wrap it up at here. I really appreciate you sticking with us. This is so important. I appreciate the support, and have a great day.